What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. My name is Adam. I am your host. I'm trying a little bit of a different segment here on the video today. We are going to be looking at the previous cards that sold from March 27th to April 2nd. This is basically the last week of high-end sales. We're going to be using Card Ladder for some of this data, so let's get right into it. Thank you all for watching. I would appreciate it if you let me know what you think of this segment down in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, and if you're new, hit the subscribe as well. Okay, so like I said, we're trying to maybe do something a little bit different here. We're going to be looking at some of the high-end cards that sold. I am using Card Ladder to pull this data. We are filtering from those dates, and then we are going by price here. So a Steph Curry, a PSA 9 with a 10 autograph, a pop 1. I would imagine this has to be one of the, and it's number 4 of 5. So this is probably this. Oh, it's pop 1. So obviously it's the highest grade because it's the only one that's graded. Sold for $312,000. You know, the Steph Curry cards, I feel like, I don't know. I don't want to say that they're underrated because like everyone loves Steph Curry and anything that he does goes viral on the internet. But it's like, it almost feels like more things that he does should go viral. Like as much as the media, I'll use media making quotations or whatever, which is mostly ESPN. As much as they talk about like LeBron, they talk about Steph Curry. Maybe they should talk about Steph Curry a little bit more, to be completely honest, because like what he has done throughout his career, I think is more impressive, if I'm going to be completely honest, when it comes to his whole career than LeBron. He stayed with the same team. He built a team that, granted, you know, to draft also Klay Thompson and draft Draymond Green is, you know, it's fairly lucky because you could also look at like a team like the Sacramento Kings, who are going to be making they're going to be making the playoffs for the first time in, you know, like 20 years or something like that. Or I think it was 2003 or 2004 was the last time that they made the playoffs. Like they've had high draft picks and they just keep missing on those draft picks. Now, granted, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green weren't necessarily high draft picks, but like at the same time, like I said, I still think it's impressive what Steph Curry has done with that team. So I feel like what that means, and essentially, is that I feel like his cards are a bit underrated. And I understand saying that a card that sold for $320 or $312,000, calling that card underrated is probably a little bit shocking, maybe to people that like aren't in cards. But like this card, National Treasures, like the 1 of 1, I believe was like, it was one of actually the weird ones that like sold, but like was also fractionally sold. So like it was valued at like $9 million, I believe, but like it also like I said, it was also like it was partly owned by somebody, so it was fractioned out. I don't know. That was a little bit weird when that happened, like a couple, like probably like in 2020, because there was a lot of like random weird things that happened. Actually, I think it was the owner of Alt that did the fractional sale of that card, and I think they valued the card at I think they said it was $9 million, I'm pretty sure. But like it was fractioned out where they didn't necessarily buy it for $9 million. So it was a little bit weird. Let's see. So the next card we got here, we have a $288,000 exquisite Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson game used 1 of 1 from 2008 Upper Deck Exquisite. Yeah, I mean, this is a crazy card. I mean, this is one of the cards that's like, I wouldn't be surprised if this card never sells again. Like, it's just the type of card that is like, it's the type of card that's like art. Like, it's more of an art piece than it is a sports card. And I don't know how a company or how somebody would be able to display a card like this, but I feel like a company or somebody can figure out how to safely display this card. Like this is like a piece of art. Like I wouldn't be surprised the same way that we see I wouldn't be surprised if in the future, the same way that we see like art galleries, if we see sports card art galleries like popping up here and there, and I'm sure there are probably some out there, but like the way that like the Louvre and the way that like the Met and like the MoMA in New York, like the way that those are like very popular art galleries, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw sports cards become more popular within those types of galleries. And, the modern art industry is, I'm not even really going to get into that because I'm sure, there's tons of people who kind of compare sports cards to that, where they look at it and they say, it's just people who are trying to evade taxes or whatever. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm not going to fully get into that. Trevor Lawrence, one of one national treasures. This is like a crazy card. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, if he had a good rookie season, it would have been probably pretty wild for some of his cards. I think like his rookie season was bad, but then the Jaguars bring in Doug Peterson. They make the playoffs, I think, last year, or maybe they didn't. Maybe they almost made the playoffs. But either way, like Trevor Lawrence's season in his second season was so astronomically important for, I think, him as a player that like, I think because if you look at like his first season compared to a player like Jamarcus Russell, like I'm pretty sure they were fairly similar. So like the bounce back that he had in his second season, I think is so important. And I think, I had the prediction, and I think unfortunately the way sort of sports cards in the market sort of ran a little bit, like I had the prediction that like Trevor Lawrence was going to do for football cards what Zion Williamson did for basketball cards. And I do think in a way that happened, but I also think unfortunately we saw like a weird adjustment, not weird, but we saw an adjustment in the market. And I think what that ended up causing was like that football cards, they did go on the run. Like, we saw like the Lamar Jackson that sell for like thousands of dollars and now it's like $200. But like, I don't think it kind of came from just the market in general. It didn't come from like a player like Trevor Lawrence, I think, coming into the league and, tearing the league up and being like this crazy rookie quarterback. And then all of his cards are selling for whatever. Like he was obviously still the quarterback that everyone's chasing from that, 2021 product. But still, I think there was more room, in my opinion, for Trevor Lawrence cards to affect the market than they did. But either way, yeah, that Trevor Lawrence card, I mean, any one of one national treasures is going to be such a phenomenal card. And like this one, I mean, I don't know. It's weird also like surfacing like 7, not great. I mean, I wonder where that surfacing issue came from. Like, because centering corners, all 9.5s, edges even 8.5, surface 7. Like, I wonder if that 7 surface comes from like Trevor Lawrence not handling the card properly, or if it came from coming out of the pack, whoever opened the box or whoever opened the, puts it in the pack. I don't know. It's a weird thing when it comes to grading and cards. It's like, it's the 10 is, I feel like it's so obtainable nowadays that like, I just don't know if every card should be getting a 10 the same way. Just basically because like a card goes through so many different steps until it's in a slab that I don't understand how even there are so many PSA 10s when it comes to grades and like how easy it is to get like the perfect grade for a card. And that's probably, if you're getting a BGS black label, like that's obviously going to be much different. But like, I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me how a card could even get to the point where it could receive that grade because of how many steps it takes to get a card to a grader and how many steps it takes to get that card into a slab. Doesn't make sense. So like the 7 surfacing here, that makes sense to me because like there are so many people that are handling this card before it gets to the grader. And whoever, I don't know if this person that sold it for the $260,000, if they were the one that pulled the card out of the pack or if they got in a break or whatever, but it's like that 7 surfacing, I feel like should be more common when it comes to some of these cards, but it also could go back to like just Panini in general, like their QCing of cards over the past few years has just been really horrible. And this could just be another example of that. Let's see. We got a Tom Brady SGC, Tom Brady Bowman Chrome Refractor SGC 10, Pop 3, $222,000. Brady has been one of those players over the past few years that's sort of, he was part of that like GOAT conversation that I think a lot of people looked at cards and said, like, you're safe if you're buying the GOATs, like you're safe. But he's like one of those players, like I think, we're seeing some of his like contenders autographs. They were selling in the millions. Now they're selling in like the million like area. So like this card, for example, like I think the more rare a card is, the more you're going to see prices like this, because like, what I think ends up happening with a card that's a Pop 3 that sells for $220,000 is what I think happens when you have a card that's like a Pop 3, and if it sells for $220,000, there's probably a decent chance that there isn't too many people that are in the market for that card. The amount of people that can spend $220,000 on a card is not that high. And then also the amount of people that want a Pop 3 card is probably not that high either. So like if there's one or two people that are bidding up a card, that's where I think you can kind of see some cards that end up selling for maybe more than they should have. Now, granted, I don't necessarily know if this one should have sold for more. Like we have down here, another SGC 10 refractor. This one sold in, oh no, this is the card. I think this is the one. So like the amount of people that can spend this amount of money on a card and the amount of cards there are, when you find those, when the number is more than one, unfortunately, that's when sometimes you get into a little bit of a bidding war on cards like this. And that's what ends up driving up the price, maybe higher than it should be. Like a Pop 3, like granted, this person is, they're not, like if you're buying a card for $222,000, you're not then trying to go out and sell it for $300. Like you're trying to maybe potentially sell it for $4 or $5. And if there's two people that were trying to buy this card, if the one person knows that they almost bought it, like if let's just say the person below this bought it for $200 or wanted to buy it for $220, but they got outbid by $2,000. Now, granted, if you're in that, I'm sure you're probably $2,000. Whatever. But like the person isn't going to want to buy the card for, $300,000, $400,000 if they know that they almost got it at $220,000, I guess. And maybe that's a little bit of an assumption. That's maybe something that I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but like I said, I guess somebody in that price range, I think that they're not buying this to, I guess they're not buying it to then flip it. Maybe they're buying it to hold, but at the same time, it's like, if you have the opportunity to sell it for $400,000 or $500,000, yeah, you're probably going to do it most likely. Another one, I think this card is down pretty significantly, if I'm not mistaken, like the LeBron Topps Chrome. The LeBron Topps Chrome is one of the cards that has kind of seen a pretty decent size downturn in terms of its price. Like it was really one of the cards that I actually had a post, and I'm going to be completely honest here. When Bitcoin and the LeBron Topps Chrome PSA 10 were basically the same price at one point, like I think they were both around the $40,000 or $50,000 range. I had a post ready to go that I never hit that was like, what's going to hit $100,000 first, a Bitcoin or a LeBron Chrome Refractor? And like literally the day after that post, like from the day after I had the post ready to go, we just saw both of them tank significantly. So I don't know. I'm not saying it's my fault that these cards went down at all, but I'm just saying that like, the Topps Chrome Refractor or the Topps Chrome PSA 10, just LeBron in general. And I'm not sure if that's the market or if that's people are sick of LeBron or what, but either way, I don't know. It's I think that this card is down probably pretty significantly. So anybody buying this card right now probably got a decent price if you're comparing it to some of the other prices from the past few years. Let's see. Anything else that's really catching my eye here? I mean, I guess we could talk about the last card I'm going to talk about in this video is going to be this Jordan PSA 10 gold certification and MBA gold. Yeah, I guess, I mean, again, another Jordan card that's kind of in that same conversation of like ones that really saw a pretty significant increase and then saw a really significant decrease. I think I think the changes in the Jordan sales really just come from how many of these Jordan cards sold over the past few years. Like if you're looking in 2017, 2018, you probably could have been buying some of these Jordan cards for, in the tens of thousands, and then when this card gets up to 3, 4, 500,000, like there was that $700,000 sale, which that was also I think a PWCCA, which is a high, like it's a secondary grade, which I think is significant to talk about. So I'm not going to necessarily put that in the conversation. But when there's people that were buying those Jordans for tens of thousands of dollars, once those cards got into the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, it would have been irresponsible for them not to sell those cards. And so I think that's what led to a significant decrease in the price, because the increase in price at the beginning, also the increase in price at the beginning led to everyone being like, oh, well, I'm going to just sell this card now. Like there's no way that I can pass up, if you made the investment for $30,000, $40,000, there's no way you can pass up $400,000 or $500,000 for this card. So you're going to see an increase in the amount of these cards selling. And that's just online. Like that's not even including at like card shows and stuff like that, because I don't think necessarily Card Ladder has that data. But like if you look at the amount of sales over the past few years, the amount of sales and what happened on the increase of the card, in my opinion, is why the card saw such a dramatic increase, because everyone was trying to sell it. And then when it saw a dramatic decrease, it was because the amount of sales went up of the card. And that's what led to, the price coming down so significantly over the past few years.